Hey everyone, it's Jerry. Welcome to my April 2026 edition, episode 23. Today I'm going to talk about a subject that's starting to come up around the real estate industry that you may see as a consumer shortly and is going to be a hotly contested issue amongst the real estate industry in the next few years, the coming soon listing. And I'm going to explain briefly what this means to you. But first, to give you a quick understanding of what it is, the coming soon listing would be a listing that is offered through other sources besides the multiple listing system. A sign might be up, it might be available on Zillow only, and the only broker that has availability to take a call or show that coming soon listing would be the listing brokerage or listing company, meaning it is a listing that is protected. And I'll kind of explain. Let me go back to the beginning days of real estate so that you can understand what this means coming forward in the future, why it is occurring, and the pros and cons of it. So if you ever have an agent approach you and talk about a coming soon listing. So way back in the dark ages of real estate, before the multiple listing systems existed, if you wanted to buy a house, and you would have to search for signs, drive by, see newspaper advertising, and often the only broker you could deal with when you bought that house would be the brokerage that had the house listed. And I remember even back in 1991 when I started, there used to be listings that would hit in the market and they weren't being shared. Back when I started, the internet was functionally not really in existence for agents. It used to be a book that would come out in our office once a week. And occasionally there would be a listing that would hit the market and wasn't in the book. Everybody knew it was for sale, wasn't in the book. And you might have a buyer that you were working with, and I'd say to my buyer, oh, there's this house over here on Girard Avenue. Um, if we want to see it, I have to reach out to the listing broker. And some of those sellers and listing brokers would not allow another agent or a buyer to come in with another agent. They would demand that the buyer only dealt with the listing broker. Effectively, what it would do is make the listing exclusive to one broker, thus not allowing the other, today, 2,600 agents in Western New York to show and sell that property, and the buyers working with those agents would not be exposed or able to get that property. This is back in the before active MLS and the internet and all that stuff. What's developed through the years, though, is because it was proven time and time and time again that the best way to sell a house for the most money is to expose it to the most people. The best way to expose it to the most people is to share it with every broker you can, because all of them have different buyers that may be qualified for the house, helping to increase the house's saleability and value, because now you're exposing the house to more people. And it eventually got to the point where those companies that existed solely for their own listings and they wouldn't allow other people to cooperate either joined them or disappeared. For the most part, there are still some non-MLS companies, at least in the residential business, very few and far between. And for the most part, they're little mom and pop shops with one sign and one person that works there. And if you walk in, like the door has cobwebs on it that you have to brush away when you walk inside, because nobody's going there to buy their one listing that they have, because nobody knows it's for sale. Now, what is going on with coming soon listings? One of the rules of the National Association of Realtors has been what's called clear cooperation. Many of the MLSs have picked up on these cooperating rules, and what they basically said to agents in markets, like, for example, in Western New York, our multiple listing system says to us, if I'm going to actively market a listing, it has to be in the MLS, has to be exposed within 24 hours of that active marketing. Failure to do so subjects me to a fine as the broker. And the reason the MLS has done that is because it protects sellers from bad actors, unscrupulous characters that may get a listing, in the old terms, put it in their pocket, keep it as a pocket listing, not tell anybody it's for sale, and sell it to one individual buyer. They have that listing to one buyer and functionally, potentially undersell that property, not acting in the best interest of the seller and not clearly disclosing to the seller that that's what occurred. So the MLS, in order to fight that scenario, has created these policies in which, in essence, they now dictate to a listing broker and you as a homeowner that your house has to be actively marketed to everybody immediately when it hits the market, so that all of the other brokers and all of the buyers are treated fairly and have an opportunity to come in and see that house and cooperate in the sale. The advantage is more buyers equals higher price, raising the value of your house, extending the marketing out. This policy, though, has also served to benefit the large national web portals like Zillow, for example, Homes.com, Realtor.com, who take that data from the MLS and then they share it to the world. And then those buyers and sellers that come into those websites, or buyers that come into the websites primarily interested in your listing, they are selling that data back to other buyers' agents, making revenue from it. That can be a point of frustration for real estate brokers. Why do I have a listing? I give it to Zillow. They don't give me the lead, and they charge an agent down the street 35 or 40% to get the buyer to sell my listing to, when I already have it in the ML. I already have it on 850 other websites. Well, that's because they built a better mousetrap. They built an app that is very consumer friendly and people enjoy working with it. It's created a scenario now where the largest brokers in the country, Compass Anywhere USA, which is Compass, Century 21, Brand, Caldwell Banker, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, all under one company. Huge real estate company is saying, why do we need to share our listings immediately to all these other portals? We are large enough in expanse in marketing that we don't need to. If we share it to a private group, we may be able to get the same result. And more importantly, it should be the consumer's choice, should be the seller's choice, not the multiple listings choice as to how they want to expose their property. We have an idea. We're going to expose that on our website before we expose it on the MLS. We are going to do a coming soon listing exclusively on our brand's websites. And then in response to that, EXP just did a partnership. Keller Williams is doing a partnership. Now you have all of the major brokerages throughout the country now competing to have exclusive offerings of their listings should the seller choose. This is the coming soon dilemma. It is contradictory to the MLS's rules, and the major members of the MLS are fighting the MLS, saying your rules should not be a one-size-fits-all. It's up to the sellers what they choose. So now let's go back and let's talk about the pros and cons of this and really what I think is behind it and what I would do as if I was a home seller. Let's talk about the pros of the coming soon listing. Why would you want to limit your exposure and limit the brokerages that may come into your house? There are circumstances. For example, let's say you are a famous football player and you've decided no longer to make a home in Western New York. You may play here, but you've decided to sell your mansion, your $4 million home on 120 acres or whatever it would be. and you've decided that you're moving back home, maybe the end of your career, something's changing. You don't want that house exposed. You don't want rumors in the marketplace. You don't want the newspapers covering, look who listed this football player's house. You don't want anybody being able to peruse the photos of your home. Well, the current MLS policies would say that if a listing broker was a member of the MLS and joined the MLS and listed your house and publicly marketed it in any way, shape, or form, they could be fined because they're in violation of cooperating with other brokerages. But yet you, as a seller, don't care. You don't want to cooperate with everybody else. You want to have a very finite, small market that your broker is attacking. You want your broker to share the house with other exclusive listing brokers. You want the broker to target market buyers of a certain net worth. You want the brokerage to do maybe a direct mail to people that are in their upscale buyer list. You want that to be kind of an under the radar, not on Zillow, not on Realtor.com, not on Homes.com. You want an exclusive offering. The pro to that to you is you maintain some fundamental confidentiality in what you're attempting to do. What Compass says is you should be able to do that. You should be able to offer it through our exclusive networks. You should be able to offer it that way as a consumer. We have exclusive partnerships with other companies. What other companies, EXP, Keller Williams, Howard Hanna, they're all developing their own systems to do the same thing. And the MLSs are saying to these companies, but you're putting your agents in a situation where they're violating our policies. We will fine them. The major companies are saying, we will sue. This is becoming a controversy. What are some of the other pros? Let's say you are a seller and you have a particularly sensitive situation that you don't want people to be aware of. Let's say you are in a spot where your house is very poorly conditioned and you're a little embarrassed by it. You want to sell it to a cash offer buyer, but you don't want to offer it on the public market. Again, agent lists it. As soon as they start sharing it with people anywhere, they're considered in violation of the clear cooperation. That's why many of these brokerages are saying we need to have a coming soon policy. The MLS is fighting back against it. The other companies are. Now, let me tell you the cons to those. And there are many, and this is why the MLSs have proven and the MLS brokers have proven time and time again to be more successful. I'm not a fan of the coming soon listing. I find that it does not provide a significant benefit economically to you if you are selling your home. In fact, it can be very detrimental to your overall value. That doesn't mean it's up to me, though. And that's what many of the major companies are saying. It is not up to the board of realtors. It is not up to the corporate heads. It is not up to the individual agent. You as a consumer should have a choice. How much exposure do you want on your house when you sell? So the pro to the coming to not doing coming soon or not doing an office exclusive situation where you're only offering it is, you get exposed to 800 and some odd websites. You get every consumer in the market by exposing to Zillow, Homes.com, Realtor.com. You, by sharing it with other brokerages' website, can hire me, Jerry Thompson at Century 21, and have your house on 850 some odd websites. Every one of those brokers we've already agreed to cooperate with. So they're more than welcome to bring their buyers in. So if a buyer has a family member they want to represent them, they can come into the house and you get more activity, more showings, more buyers, more money. All by avoiding that coming soon. There is a distinct advantage, and this is one of the things that's going on in the real estate industry is, believe it or not, in the large companies and across the market, there's not great margins. And many of these margins are being cut drastically into by the web portals who charge agents a great deal of money, charge brokers a great deal of money or a great deal of expense in referral fees for listings that we've shared with them. Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Redfin. They have agents that are paying them to get buyer leads. And what they're paying for is agents are fundamentally buying the buyer leads back that are gotten by using the data provided by the same brokerage to present the house on that website. Right? I share my listing. The other brokerage gets the listing, or the other portal gets the listing. They market the listing as on their website. When you click, you want a showing, they charge somebody, agent in my company, to show my listing, to show your house. So many of the major brokers are saying, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we giving our listing to somebody and having them sell the result back to us? So many of their solutions to this is, we know we won't share a listing with everybody. We're big enough. We don't need to share a listing with everybody. Now, I don't agree with that, because I think at the end of the day, a listing broker, when they discuss with you your options, coming soon or active on the market, needs to be able to explain to you the pros and cons to both. Are there circumstances where if somebody says to me, I want to keep this exclusive, I would do that? Absolutely, 100%. However, in those circumstances, often you can be missing your best buyers. I tell the story to people that talk about this all the time. Years ago, I had somebody that owned an 11-unit apartment complex in the village of East Aurora, and they decided they were going to sell it. And they said to me, well, Jared, we don't really want to go with the broker. We have a friend that's willing to pay a really good price. We talked about it. And I said to them, but wait, do you know that's the best price? They said, well, no, but it seems like a good price. We think we want to do it. I said, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I think if you went on the market, we might find there are other buyers. The price of that place at the time, I think, was $700 or something they were being offered, which was a lot of money at the time. The seller thought about it, called me back and said, you're right. I won't feel right about it unless I go on the market. We ended up with 8 offers in 3 days, and the 2 lowest offers were friends of the owner, and the highest offer was somebody nobody would have ever known was in the open market looking for multiple family houses. They found it on a website, and they decided to buy it. Had we treated it as a coming soon exclusive quiet sale, that seller would have lost close to $200,000. Instead, they had a sale where they got more money. Does that mean it's wrong? If that seller didn't care about the $200,000 and wanted a quiet, exclusive sale, that's where the coming soons come in. That's where the private offerings come in. And there is going to be a significant portal war, would be the better way to describe it, because there's some significant players in the real estate industry right now that are very nervous over the size of Compass now. Compass is in control of Compass, Century 21, Caldwell Banker, ERA, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, all of those brands. And there is some concern in the industry because it is such a large company, and it's also my company, that we could dominate the marketplace by not sharing all of our listings. So the reaction to that immediately was the other large players in the market, Keller Williams, EXP, have created their own partnership to create their own competition to this. In essence, offering now the opportunity for us to splinter all of the success that has been proven time and time again through cooperation with the multiple listing system. As a seller, what's crucial to understand is entering this marketplace, as it shakes out, is you need to know the pros and cons between the two when you're making a decision to sell. Do you want privacy, quiet, limited signage, limited exposure, and potentially less money for the benefit of that limited offering, the exclusivity? Or do you want a full bore exposure, which also comes with cons? It comes from more showings, more inconveniences showing, sometimes less than the highest quality of agents will show the property, leave the door open. There's all sorts of things that happen when you have 30, 40 people that go through your house that will annoy the heck out of you. Do you want to do that? And there are some people in this marketplace who will say, no, I don't. And that's perfectly fine with the coming soon programs. The MLS will tell you no. The companies will tell you yes. And that is all being worked on and will be, I think, through litigation over the next couple of years. So now when you hear agents or you see agents post on social media, we're going to do this new partnership where there's exclusive offerings and things like that. The first thing I want you to think of is, Jerry talked about this. There are cons to that. If you meet with an agent and they are suggesting that you offer your property exclusively, not to the open market, ask them, why? Because to me, if they don't explain the pros and cons and the huge con of not having the best buyer who's got the most money because they're working with a different agent, the question becomes, are they working for themselves or are they working for you? Which is what the MLS's policy is saying. The MLS is saying, as fiduciaries, you all know, as agents, the best policy is to share the listing. It's been proven since the MLS was invented. The companies that participated have thrived and grown. The companies that didn't no longer exist. But as real estate companies merge and grow like other industries, there are attempts to become the one shop for everything, the Amazon of real estate. And in attempting to be the company that is the Amazon of real estate, the companies are going to begin to make sure product is only available on their website. The National Association of Realtors is going to be fighting to make sure the properties are exposed to the world. And the gray area in the middle is the companies fighting for the coming soons are saying that should be up to the consumer, not up to the Board of Realtors. The Board of Realtors is saying, but it's not in the best interest of the consumer. You guys are doing wrong for the consumer. You're acting in the best interest of your corporation. To me, I think all that matters is that you have a sense of it and that when you hire an agent, you understand what you're getting for what you're paying and you understand the exposure they're going to provide you. And if they're suggesting limited exposure, you should have a red flag go up and question why. If you want limited exposure, it's an entirely different conversation. Hopefully that gives you a sense of what this whole coming soon portal fight is about. And hopefully you understand when people then begin to talk about on social media and the web, look at my coming soon program, look at my secret agent program, look at my secret offering program, look at my secret offering. Whenever you hear the word secret and marketing, you clearly have to understand it's not in your best interest because marketing is about more people having a positive perception and wanting to buy your product than less people knowing about it, least in real estate. More people that know, more buyers, higher price. Less people that know, less buyers, less leverage you have, lower price. And then it's your decision in the middle what you want to do. The secondary decrement to coming soon listings is nowadays with the new NAR settlement, buyers are supposed to be choosing their agent. Meaning you're supposed to be getting a buyer's agency agreement signed with the buyer before you go to look at houses. If you are not a full-time active agent considered to be one of the strongest in the marketplace, you're not going to get a lot of coming soon listings shared with you. And if you have buyers signed up, and you're a buyer, you've signed up with that agent that's not considered to be a powerhouse, you may not get access to those listings because that listing may not be shared with you. I started way back when talking about a very expensive house with a football player that may not, decide they wanted to sell it, but didn't want people to know it was for sale. When somebody sends out the postcards or mailers on that, they're not going to send it out to the bottom agents. They're going to send it out to the top 10%. So to me, the coming soon and the portal arguments fundamentally boil down to the rich getting richer. The biggest, the largest, the most successful are the ones that are going to get the inside information on selling those listings. So when you're starting to choose a buyer's agent, it might be a good question to ask. How are you going to deal with coming soon? Are you on the list? Should you be on the list? What's your production? Again, full disclosure here. I do not believe coming soon is good for consumers. I do not believe exclusive listings are good for sellers. I don't believe that they're good for buyers. I just believe you need to understand what they could mean. They also could mean, if you have a certain buyer's agent as a buyer, if the listing agent won't, and the seller have decided they're not going to offer that listing to that agent, can they limit that ability for you to buy that home? It's the way it used to be work in the 60s. My grandfather, Tony DePhilip, will put a sign up, and if he was mad at Shirley Greatrix at the time or Aubrey Leonard, they might not have cooperated. The rules weren't, though, in place to try to stop that from happening. And it created scenarios where buyers were forced to buy houses from agents that they didn't want to buy houses from. So I always fall on the side of consumer choice. I do think coming soon should be a choice that is offered to sellers if they have that need. I do not believe it's the best way to market and get the higher price. I do believe coming soon could be offered, but I believe a seller that's offering coming soon should make sure their agent's covering all their bases and making sure all agents are having that offering made to them in some way, not just limited or exclusive agents. And I believe if you as a consumer make some choices and say, this is how you want it done, and you do have an exclusive list and you do want to do that, you can do it, but you need to clearly understand through a series of disclaimers what the risk is in doing that and how you could be not offering your property to the buyer that will pay you the most. And there are buyers out there that will be frustrated because they never had the chance to buy the house. We'll see how this all shakes out over the next couple of years. It could be very soon the splintering of the MLS, where there could be 3 or 4 major companies that if you're not affiliated with, you're going to struggle to find listings, or it could just be more consumer choice when you're thinking about listing it, which is what I think is going to happen. There'll be a menu. Who do you want your property exposed to? You as a seller can check it off. As a buyer, you'll still hire your buyer's agent, and the sellers will have certain exposure limits. It might make it more difficult for buyer's agents to find properties. They'll have to be more familiar with the multiple portals that can be used and the products that are available. As always, thanks for listening to You Own It with Jerry Thompson. See you next month. Thank you so much for tuning in to You Own It. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any resources mentioned during the show. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on your favorite podcast apps, and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and greatest. All of our social channels are clickable in the show notes as well. I'd also like to remind you to check out our website, c21jerry.com. There you'll find more info on me as well as my latest listings for all of Western New York. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, through any big decision, you own it.